Hey, Sayak, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your journey in machine learning that led you to your current role at Hugging Face?
I think I started my journey around late 2015. Back then, ResNets were just becoming a thing. And I ended up taking this undergrad course curriculum called Pattern Recognition and Machine Learning. So the more I started studying that subject, the more I fell in love with the subject. And since then, I don't think I have looked back. Since then, I have been pursuing the field of machine learning, and I have not really wanted to pursue any other field such as web development, mobile development, or even blockchain and so on. ML is literally all I do. So yeah, that's what got me started. And then I think it was it's been an adventurous journey, to say the least. So my first job was a regular software engineering job. Nothing, no disrespect to anyone, but yeah, I always wanted to be in a job that was more ML focused. So I decided to quit my job because my mind was not being taken further. So yeah, I quit my job without having a job, and I decided to sort of rediscover my passion for machine learning, and I started doing open source. Of course, I did not start doing open source just for the sake of doing it, but also I genuinely felt interested in getting started in open source. So that's what also got me started in the area of open source, and I also started taking online courses from fast AI, deep learning.ai and so on, which helped me hone my skills further. So yeah, out of some divine benevolence, I ended up at DataCamp, which was my first job that required a bit of data science, but that was a contractual role. But I did not stop. I continued putting in some extra effort, and then I finally got my ML heavy job at a company called PyMid Search, and from then on I have been dabbling in the area. And I started contributing to Transformers, which is one of the seminal libraries maintained at Hugging Face. I was actively contributing to Transformers. After a while, I felt like this is something I could do full time, and what if I could make my case and reach out to the folks at Hugging Face to see if I was a good fit, and that's how I ended up.
Wow, that's a great story, Sayak. Thank you very much. Awesome. So can you give us a broad overview of what Hugging Face is and what you're trying to accomplish?
For sure. I think we want to empower people by providing platforms and tools to do good machine learning. We believe in open science. We believe in open source. That's why we want to, democratize good machine learning by providing the necessary tools and platforms to do so. So that's why we have this centralized platform called Hugging Face Hub, which we envision to be the GitHub of machine learning, which is open by nature. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the primary areas where we work on. But there are other stuff as well, like API inference endpoints and so on. So yeah, I mean, the earlier what I just said, we want to democratize good machine learning by providing the tools and platforms to do so. So that people could collaborate in the most open way possible.
And can you discuss your role at Hugging Face and how it contributes to its mission?
Yeah, for sure. So my official title at Hugging Face is Developer Advocate Engineer, but that is, I feel like it's quite different from the other developer advocacy roles that I have seen at big tech corporations like Google and Facebook. From my interactions, I have learned that developer advocates rarely contribute to the core development of a particular feature, be it an open source library or be it some internal API wrappers on a particular service and so on. They rarely contribute technically to those things, but rather they focus on the developer journey by working on tutorials, by giving talks, and so on, and also by propagating the developer feedback back to the technical product development teams, and sort of propagating that back to the developers and so on. But At my role, I'm one of the maintainers of an open source library called Diffusers, which provides simple and intuitive access to state-of-the-art pre-trained diffusion models. So I'm responsible for contributing core features to Diffusers, maintaining the library, training diffusion models, and of course, as a part of that job, paper reading is something that I get to do. I mean, collectively speaking, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to contribute to our mission of democratizing good machine learning by working on potentially impactful features so that our users could easily leverage the power of open access diffusion models to build something cool and useful for the society.
And so Hugging Face provides many resources such as models, data sets, machine learning demos, and libraries. Which resources do you work on directly? And can you share a little bit more about them?
I think collectively speaking, I get to work on many of those resources. For example, if there's a need for us to have a data set hosted on our Hugging Face Hub platform, pretty much all of us kind of do that. It's not like an enforced condition that, hey, you will only work on models and not on data sets. So that is something that's very decentralized in nature throughout the company. But most of my day is kind of concerned with the models, like diffusion models, like units, text encoders, and so on. But if there's a need to have an impactful data set ready on the Hugging Face Hub platform, I will work on that. So there's like no strict requirement for me to only stick to the models, given there's enough impact on the other side of the spectrum. So
how do you keep yourself updated on the latest advancements and techniques in AI and machine learning?
I've rather learned to be clever about it. I mean, it's not possible to keep up with everything. I think that way you will quickly burn yourself off. So I try to keep my keep my efforts to be very focused. Like I try to gauge a work with respect to my area of interest. And then I usually apply my internal filter to just judge, hey, if it's worth my time and so on. And I usually follow people on Twitter, and I also usually check all the blogging platforms that all the big research corporations have, like OpenAI, Google AI, and so on. And from time to time, I keep checking those. And fortunately enough, I happen to be one of the colleagues of this guy called AK. He's very popular over Twitter. He keeps on tweeting very impactful papers on a regular basis. I mean, in the research world, the name AK is very common. So I happen to be one of the colleagues of AK. So I get to have my daily dose of the most impactful papers from AK as well. So
in what ways have you grown your competence as an ML practitioner during your time at Hugging Face?
I think our tendency to act more rather than being perfect is what has resulted in tremendous growth, at least for me. We encourage taking actions, taking ownership, and being more hands-on than thinking through things in an extensive manner. So that's got to be the primary factor of my career growth. So,
and you kind of already touched on it, but can you share some blogs, newsletters, or podcasts you follow to keep up with the developments and progress in AI?
Yeah, for sure. So first, I mean, following folks like Andre Karpathy or David Ha, or the folks or some of the most seminal folks working in the areas of my interest, that definitely helps, because they rarely post about nonsense stuff. So that's pretty great. And as I mentioned, I am also subscribed to the batch, the newsletter from deeplearning.ai, which is pretty useful. And then I usually from time to time check all the research blogs from big tech corporations like OpenAI, Google AI, who are doing works that are kind of closely aligned with what I am also interested to pursue. So yeah, and at the company also I get to talk to a lot of great folks. So they keep popping in good papers. So I mean, there's no shortage for me to stay updated in the field. But yeah, if I were to systematize this a bit, then following folks on Twitter, then newsletters like the batch from deeplearning.ai, and third would be following the blog platforms of big tech research labs.
Yeah, I'll have to check some of those out. Thank you. And in your work with Hugging Face, could you discuss the high-level technologies, methodologies, and most effective machine learning strategies?
I leverage PyTorch because diffusers is based on PyTorch, but I also get to work on JAX because we also provide implementations in JAX. So we have models and pipelines implemented in two frameworks, PyTorch and JAX. So that's one. Now the core deep learning related technology that I get to work with is diffusion models, and 10% of my time at Hugging Face is also kind of spent around different TensorFlow related stuff because I happen to be a long time TensorFlow user. So 10% of my time at Hugging Face is also spent around TensorFlow related discussions, projects, and so on. So yeah, I mean, that's it for the frameworks that I use. Now, in terms of tooling, I usually spin up GPU instances on GCP, but locally, I just use my Mac. That cuts my deal.
How has Hugging Face's open source philosophy impacted your work and the projects that you've been a part of?
Having the open source first mindset kind of forces you to also empathize for your users, because if you are working there out in the wild, if you're working entirely based on open source, because you can tell me what you could tell right now what I'm working on just by taking a look at my GitHub profile. Like that's the kind of openness that we have in our work, and I'm really fortunate to be able to do that. Majority of what you do is going to be open sourced. Then you need to really empathize for the user. Like, is this API design user friendly? Is it readable? Is it cleanly written? Is it well documented? Is it well tested? Because users are going to trust you, right? And it's your inherent responsibility to ensure that you are doing everything that you can in order to uphold that trust. So empathizing for the users no matter what, that's got to be the primary thing that has impacted me.
How do you see generative AI evolving in the near future, and how is Hugging Face preparing for these changes?
It's going to be everywhere. For example, if you wanted to improve your productivity, you have got all sorts of tools. Even if you are a developer, you could use tools like Copilot and so on to help you write code. And ChatGPT is already doing wonders. You could literally converse with ChatGPT on n number of topics. It does not need to be a technical topic. It can be a non-technical topic as well. So I think overall generative AI is going to be impacting a whole plethora of different industries, which we are kind of already seeing, isn't it? So that's one. Second, I think at Hugging Face we are fairly prepared. For example, we shipped an open source framework for deploying large language models at scale in no time. It's called text generation inference. So that's there. We also shipped Hugging Chat pretty quickly, which is kind of an open source version of ChatGPT. The entire code is open source and so on for everyone to try out. And we are continuing with our collaborations, right? Like in the recent past, we collaborated with ServiceNow and a group of other researchers from all across the globe to work on StarCoder, which is like a code language model, which is open access. So yeah, I mean, I think we are fairly prepared because we get to work on the platform which many people use. So that kind of puts us in the driver's seat, but we are incredibly responsible, and we also incredibly feel humble that people trust us with as far as their technical concerns go. So yeah.
What kind of machine learning operation solutions does Hugging Face provide?
I think we have got a couple, but the one that I am most familiar with is API inference endpoints that lets you deploy any machine learning model in the most optimized manner possible. Because I do not work on that team, I probably won't be able to provide you with all the gory details, but API inference endpoints is something that I'm aware of and have tried in the recent past.
Can you share some of the biggest challenges you're facing in your role at Hugging Face?
I think communication is something that you cannot truly never ever master. So because the number of meetings at Hugging Face is intentionally kept to a bare minimum. Like we do not do scrum calls, we do not have daily meetings and so on. So in an asynchronous setting like that, how do you ensure that you are communicating in the most sane way possible. Like these are probably one of those instances where you would want to over communicate rather than under communicate, because the nature of the communication is asynchronous. You'd probably want to do over communicate, and sometimes we miss out on the details. Sometimes there are misunderstandings and so on. But yeah, everyone's got to learn and move on for the betterment. So yeah, communications definitely got to be one of the biggest challenges.
And obviously, I mean, at one point you weren't as experienced at machine learning. What advice would you give someone looking to grow their competence in machine learning?
I think get hands-on from day one. Do not overthink it. Do not think about, hey, what if I cannot implement it? What if it runs into error? How the community is going to take it? Do not overthink it. Just get hands-on from day one.
And what key factors do you consider when creating or updating models for Hugging Face's diverse applications?
We, of course, train models internally. We have an open source reproduction team internally at Hugging Face that's responsible for training massive models. But at the same time, we also provide access to many of the existing pre-trained models that are developed by non-Hugging Face folks, right? So it's important for us to ensure that the models that we are implementing and porting from other folks has a one-on-one equivalence, right? I have worked on a particular model, and I have ported the parameters of that model from an external resource, and I would want to ensure my model is providing the exact same output as the other model that I used for the porting purpose. So that kind of implementation correctness is definitely needed, and it's something that we try to ensure as much as possible with our rigorous suite of testing.
And you've mentioned you've been with Hugging Face for quite a while now. In the context of community collaboration, could you share a memorable experience that impacted your work?
So since I'm one of the maintainers of diffusers, I get to review PRs, I get to respond to issues, because that's one of the responsibilities of being a maintainer of a library, right? So there has been instances where the contributors have been very generous in sharing their knowledge and in their contributions. And I feel extremely grateful to those contributors for volunteering their time, for at least willing to improve the library on their own will. So yeah, that has been quite a memorable experience for me.
And what unique challenges have you encountered while ensuring the Transformers library is compatible with all machine learning models?
All machine learning models, meaning because Transformers provides only a subset of models. I mean, of course, there are integrations, but Transformers, it's known for models from natural language processing, computer vision. A couple of multimodal models are also there, video models. There are speech recognition models and so on. So if you are asking for, also we have got time series models as well. But if you are asking for, let's say, models that are more in the structured data vicinity, I don't think we have got enough support for that yet. So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally fine. I understand. And so do you have any advice for AI startups? What technology should they be watching? Which ones will survive this AI boom 10 years into the future?
Yeah, I think before jumping on to working on your next generative AI related application, let's take a step back and think through, do I really need that solution in the first place? Can't that solution be mastered using the existing tools? So because users are getting more and more intelligent, right? Like, I mean, you couldn't think of an application probably 10 years before. Now you can probably think of that application, especially with technologies like ChatGPT, GPT-4 and so on, right? So users and regular folks are getting more and more intelligent because of the accessibility this technology provides to you. So I'll say take a step back before jumping on to proceeding to work on your next generative AI enabled application, because it's a lot of dollars, right? So you would want to be very careful and put your users first in the driver's seat and see if it's gonna genuinely provide some value. To me, ChatGPT is one of those products that provides bang for your bucks. It's an amazing product because it gets you the answers, right? Of course, it makes mistakes. It sometimes gets derailed, but I think we can all agree that it's probably one of the best tools that has ever existed in the race of humanity, because You can converse with it. You can ask technical questions, and it's just amazing to use it.
Mhm.
So if you are working on generative AI related stuff, make sure the usability is top notch. Otherwise, it's probably not gonna cut it. And of course, question yourself: is generative AI the solution? Could I get away with simpler and smaller solutions? Because again, generative AI is about a lot of dollars, so you would want to be really careful. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much, Sayak, for being with us today.
No worries.
Awesome. And are there any plugs you want to make? Do you have a blog, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, or is there anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, my personal website is sayak, that's sayak.dev, dev, very short and sweet. So sayak.dev is where I keep on posting about my life and what's happening. It's mostly technical. I'm a very tech first person, so if it's boring, I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.